Well, hello, and welcome back to Read Becca for my Bookish week, where we chat about all the weekly happenings in books, everything that I've read, everything that I'm currently reading, and everything that I'm looking forward to reading. And this is going to be slightly discombobulated because I kind of am a little out of order on things, want to talk about some other things, and I'm also sick. So that does not help us, either of us. But my voice currently is holding kind of strong. I've been pounding tea, and I may have to pause to go do the same again if my voice goes out, because it has been cutting in and out quite a bit. So far, all fine, just kind of a cold with chills, and I've been boosted, so I'm not overly worried. Negative test this morning, but I'm sure it's all my fault. I had house guests for the first time in 3 years, and so to be expected, we were all over the place at events, at restaurants, and so I'm sure I have taken in more germs or been exposed to more germs than I have in the past week and a half, than I have in 3 years. So I will be happy if this is all it is. So holding strong with that. I also want to start unusually with a library haul. My library turned over the new releases shelf, where they did some rearranging for sure, and had a lot of new stuff. So I kind of looted it. So I need your help, because I already have a ton of stuff I want to get to for October. So I want you to help me prioritize these, because these are additional to my current October plans. And obviously I am someone who is not really dead set on sticking to TBRs whatsoever, so that's not a big deal. I'm very flexible on it, but I do have a lot I want to get to. So please, if you have read these, or if you have strong opinions about any of these, let me know. So the first one I definitely will be reading, because it was actually from a hold, not from the new releases shelf, but it is a new release, and that's Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. And this is the story of little Toadling, who is apparently has grown up in a fairy water and goes to see about the curse to do with Sleeping Beauty. So something Sleeping Beauty inspired, very short. I'm not sure on this one whether I want to get to it right away and read it for mid-month book bash this weekend-ish, or if I need to push it back till later. I've got it for 3 weeks, but I will definitely read that one. Then a couple of nonfiction that I picked up I'm very excited about. The first is Once Upon a Tome, The Misadventures of a Rare Bookseller by Oliver Darkshire. And this is such a beautiful book. I remember seeing this on Steve Donahue's channel when he hauled it, and immediately put it on my TBR, and then I spotted it on the shelf and had to have it. So this is a memoir about being an antiquarian bookseller. So sounds right up my alley, nonfiction about books. Really excited for that one. The next one is, if you are new here at all, I certainly grew up religious, evangelical specifically, and kind of deconstructed in college, but I still have a strong interest in world religions, just as a fascination of mine. And more recently, I have dove into the niche of evangelical American nationalism, and there's quite a few books on that topic, and there is a new one, American Idolatry: How Christian Nationalism Betrays the Gospel and Threatens the Church, by Andrew L. Whitehead. He also has another big name book on the topic as well that's, I think, much larger. This one is right about 200 pages, so it should be very manageable. And I really want to read it, obviously, because this is a niche topic that I have really been interested in. The next one is a very popular one, The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. This one I think is historical fiction, but everyone is sort of implying there's maybe like a magical realist element, possibly, I think. I have never read Groff before. I really wanted to get to Matrix and didn't. So this would be a great first place to start. I saw this on the bestseller shelf at the library. I'm trying to read a bestseller a month-ish, and so this would be a great one to get to for that. Then a very popular horror. I want to get to some horror for October. I have a number of books on audio hold, including this one, but it has a very lengthy audio hold, so when I saw it on the shelf, I had to snag it. This is kind of to my nonfiction selection. This is about some sort of religious cultiness and a conversion camp horror situation. So this is also by Chuck Tingle, and his first traditionally published book after, I think, hundreds of short-ish tinglers is what he calls them, which are erotic, mostly gay, adult content type stories. Many of them have pounded in the butt in the title. So I don't know what this is going to be, but I have heard at least generally enjoyable things about it. The topic and his approach to the topic, I think, will be very, very much of interest to me. So I'm excited to get to this one. Should I get to it in print, or should I just wait through the lengthy hold line for the audiobook, which may take a couple months? So this might be a good one for Horror-y month later this month, possibly. I don't know. Let me know. So those are the library new release options that I have. let me know if you have strong feelings about me getting to any of them. Then on to my reads this week. I guess let's start with the one that was a reread, and I don't have a ton to say about because I have talked about it so much lately, and that is An Immense World by Ed Yong. I, of course, just read this, and I read it in print, I think 2 months ago for the BookTube Prize semifinals, and at that point I enjoyed it so much, I knew I had guests coming, and I put a hold on the audiobook. I had a long wait, and it came in perfect time, and I had a whole load of books on audiobook available for us, because I knew we were going to be out and about in the car a lot. I thought, oh yeah, we'll get through a ton of them. We barely got through this one audiobook, not quite to the end of it, but I finished it out, and I enjoyed it so much on audio. It was even better than reading in print. It is so well narrated. I was very surprised that Yong himself does narrate it, and he is just a very passionate narrator. He has so much liveliness and animation to his storytelling style about all of these exciting scientific facts. So it was just a wonderful book to do on audio with, people that could be very interested and surprised by these facts as we were going along, and yeah, it sparked a lot of conversation and wonder in all of us. So that was great. I loved the rereading experience on audio. Then I DNF'd a book. I didn't finish The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which is very obviously a retelling of the island of Dr. Moreau, but from the daughter Carlotta's perspective. And at least in part, this is a DNF because of the audio. Not because the narrator was actually bad. The narrator was a very good narrator in general, but it didn't work for the tone of the book at all. The narration came across very excessively animated and young, so it came across as like a middle grade for most of the book as far as I got. I got over halfway through the book and gave up. Because it is this really whiny, agitating character, and she's very kind and very naive, and those things together made me want to get behind her, but also be very annoyed by her. So that was hard to read through with this really hyper-animated style. The writing also didn't totally work for me, though, and enhanced that sort of young target reader that it seemed, because like at one point I was reading through a paragraph and realized that I was in the Kindle sample. Sorry, I did go back to the Kindle sample to check and see if these things were actually bothering me in the print, and they kind of were. In this paragraph, names were used like 15 times in a single paragraph. And this overuse of names is really prominent in this book, and I just don't understand it. And most of them are Carlotta. So Carlotta being our main character, you don't need to keep referencing her by name, usually. So it literally was things like, Carlotta went here, Carlotta did this, Carlotta's father said blah, blah, blah. And that makes it even more young sounding in terms of the writing style. It's very simplistic, I would say. So that also makes it easy to read, which is not a problem. But I did kind of go into this knowing that this was a book that I didn't think was going to be my favorite work of Moreno-Garcia's. I thought I was going to probably like the premise, but not love the book based on things I had heard. And that very much was where I was at. So I do think this is a book I could come back to in the future after I've read a different book by Moreno-Garcia and liked it more. But the writing in the print version did seem to work slightly better, but it still bothered me. So I don't know. I'm really torn on this one. There were so many aspects. Like, I did finally give up when we reached a sex scene, basically. I didn't give up at the sex scene, kind of the scene after that, where we're dealing with the fallout. And when I got to the sex scene, it was not graphic. It's not super graphic. It is on page, but it feels like 12-year-olds hooking up because they appeared so young. They were so immature. And again, Carlotta is extremely naive about the situation she's entering into. And so it was just very off-putting. So then the scene after that was just a bridge too far, and I was done. There were also a lot of writing quirks beyond just the naming that really grated on me. There was one, I'm pretty sure this is verbatim, but it was actually said, the original animals they originated from. And like, it's one extra word, but it just so got under my skin. Like, you need to say just the animals they originated from is such a better flow. So it was little things here and there like that were too much for me, really bothered me, and I couldn't get through it. So yeah, this may not be a DNF forever, but it is certainly a DNF for now, and I don't intend to go back to it anytime soon. The last one I finished was a very nice and easy read that was another hold I had come in very quickly. So this is a brand new release of Starter Villain by Scalzi with our lovely cat business suit on the cover. And I really enjoyed this. I think this was like probably a 3.5 star. Scalzi is always reliably fun and entertaining to read, and that's what this was. So this is a very short book. It's under 300 pages, and it very much follows the same framework as his previous book, Kaiju Preservation Society, where we have a character who's kind of down and out, struggling, not succeeding at life whatsoever, and doesn't know what he's going to do when his uncle passes away. And his uncle is someone he didn't know, basically hadn't seen since he was a child. So he knows nothing about him, but winds up with kind of fallout of that and being the only remaining family member connected with his uncle. And that throws him into the hidden world of villainry that is much like Kaiju Preservation Society, where there you have a literal alternate universe. Here it's him being a fish out of water, learning about this sort of villainous world that is secretive and he doesn't know anything about, and also has sapient cats. So the cat, there are no cats in business suits, unfortunately, but there are lots of cats in the story, and I very much enjoyed that. I enjoy the quirky sense of humor, of course. Scalzi is always full of snark, so it was great fun. A lot of Scalzi's stories are very obvious, and so there was nothing really surprising here. The one surprising thing I would say is that this had a lot to do with labor unions, and I was not expecting that. Especially considering that's very topical and of the moment. We have sort of a swell in favorability to workers' rights and labor rights in the US, and so I felt like that was timely commentary that we were getting there. It was very brief, but I do find the ways that he tells stories in sort of obvious commentary and very obvious turns of phrase. I think it's predictable, it's engaging, it's entertaining, and I always enjoy it, but you are kind of going in knowing what you're going to get with Scalzi, and this was that. And so, as I said, it was like a 3.5 star. It was enjoyable. I don't regret my time with it, but I probably won't terribly remember it a few months from now. So fun, entertaining, quick popcorn read. Great for being sick. In fact, I read that in less than 24 hours. So really, really good entertainment read. So that was everything that I read this week. In progress, I've actually made really good headway in the stuff that I'm currently reading. So that is very good because I've got stuff from my own shelves that's chunky in progress. I've got Empress of Forever by Max Gladstone, about halfway through. I've got also about halfway through The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood for October. Amazing. I got through another 2 short stories in Distant Gardens, and no progress on Paladin of Souls. I am also continuing on my long, slow, complete read of the works of Edgar Allan Poe. So that is still in the works. I think that is it for book stuff. For life stuff, I don't really have much. Obviously, I'm sick. I didn't really watch much while people were here. We watched intermittently cooking competitions. We did sit down and watch Nimona, the movie on Netflix, and I love that film. I love it as an adaptation of a graphic novel that I also love. And so they had not seen it and had a great time with it as well. So I really enjoyed rewatching that. I think that's it in terms of watching stuff, and Great British Bake Off is obviously started, so I'm watching that. Currently, that was what I lay down and watched before I passed out last night. It is finally fall here. As you can see, I'm wearing long sleeves because the temperature dropped 30 degrees over 2 days, basically. Last week was very, very hot here, unusually, unseasonably hot here, and now all of a sudden it's actually fall. So I'm enjoying that, although that probably did play a part in my getting sick. The sudden temperature drop is not helpful to your immune system, certainly. So I think that's all for me. As I've said already multiple times, let me know if you have opinions about the books that I've talked about. I would love to hear them down below. Thank you so very much for joining me today.